All right, guys, welcome to the show. Josh Forti. We appreciate you for coming on the show. This is Conversations with One Percenters. And Josh Forti, you're definitely a one percenter. And 1% doesn't necessarily mean money. It means just like you're the one trying to make shit happen.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to live an average life.
Well,
So,
I'll tell you what, bro. I appreciate you having me on. You're also a one percenter. And the reason I say that is I probably get, I don't know, 2 podcast requests a day or more of people wanting me to come on the show. And out of every single person that's ever reached out, you're like the second person or third person that took a unique approach to get me on, which, I mean, right away, I was like, all right, dude, I'll come on. I'll give you any time. I'll give you any amount of time you want because you took the unique approach with the camera stuff. So props to you, sir.
yeah, the camera's going to be coming in a couple of days. I wish it was here by the time the show. So I could be using it. But no, I saw that as a unique opportunity. I was like, I'm thinking I'm not in the coaching and consulting space. Like I'm not specifically a coach or consultant, but I saw that I like learned from coaches and consultants like Sam Ovens, Dan Henry, and things like that. So it's like when you said offer for the camera, I was like, all right, this is my golden opportunity because I wanted you on the show, but I just didn't want to like shoot you some random.
That's the thing. Like I'm telling you, like that's how I built. I mean, that's how I got to, a 1% stat. And technically speaking, and it's interesting when you actually look at the stats of what it takes to be a 1%er in the world of money. It's like, wow, there's a lot of people in the world that, I mean, we're rich in America. It's crazy. I'm a 1%er worldwide, which is nuts, right? And in America, I think. Anyway, but dude, how I built my whole business and brand and everything was through finding unique approaches to things, right? Like the concept of, I mean, with Brunson, for example, like he and I are pretty good friends now. And like when everybody else was trying to hit him up to get him on podcasts or trying to impress him with funnels, I'm like, how do I take it? How do I go unique, right? And like, I'm sitting there and I find out that he likes, he's Mormon, religious, likes old books. So what do? I go on eBay. I find him this old unique copy of a Book of Mormon, buy that, send him as a gift. And next thing you know, he's reaching out to me being like, hey, I want to come on your show, flying me out to Boise. We did like a 3.5-hour interview together. So like, it's stuff like that though. Like, that's like, yeah, there's there's a monetary fee of $1,000 or like whatever, right? Whatever it was, $1,500 for the book. I think I spent on the Book of Mormon thing for him, whatever it was, right? Like, but also that one relationship. Now, not only did I get the interview, but that relationship, I mean, dude, that relationship has made me hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Which is insane. So anyway, yeah, dude, I appreciated how you reached out, and I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you. The crazy thing is, you're not going to believe this, but it was back in 2017. I think that's whenever I first saw you. I recognize I went back and looked at the old style of your podcast and stuff once I started getting into the golden mic. And I was like, I've seen this guy before. Like I've seen his layout and the way you were doing podcasts was like completely different back in the day. And I was like, it's crazy to see where you are now. Like,
I appreciate it. What do you do?
Currently right now I'm a bartender, and I'm working on internet marketing. That's the two things I do right now is bartending and internet marketing. And the goal is to obviously not be bartending anymore. My wife
was a bartender. And she, I mean, like for years, her whole, like all through high school, all through college and her 20s. And we actually met at a bar, which is funny because I don't drink. And she was the bartender, like the manager. And when I asked her out, she was like, sorry, I can't date regulars. Cause I would go there every day. Like I was there before her. Right. So there was like my restaurant or my bar that I would go to, and I'd eat there, right? I'd go up, I'd eat lunch there, I'd drive home, I'd work because I was bachelor working on the internet, right? Eat lunch there, eat dinner there, I don't cook, and so I'd go there twice a day. And then she became the manager; she got transferred over, and I was like, "Ooh, all right." Like I'm not really into like girls weren't really my thing. I wasn't really looking, but I was like, "Oh, you seem cool." And so she's like, "I can't date regulars." I'm like, "All right." So the next day I came in, and I was like, "Hey, you want to go out?" And she's like, "No, I can't date regulars." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not a regular. I called my order in to go." And I literally would drive up there. I'd get in the parking lot and then I'd call in to go order and then go inside and wait for it so I wouldn't be a regular. Yeah, so I met my wife. So she was a bartender. I'm familiar with that world too. So that's cool.
Was it before or after you got into the entrepreneur space?
Oh, well after. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, after you got into the entrepreneur space?
Yeah, that's when I met her. Yep. I was an entrepreneur for probably 3 years at that point. 2, 3 years.
And you said you don't drink. Is there a specific reason why you don't drink?
I never have. I hate alcohol. Like, I mean, to me, it is actually disgusting. And I mean, I'm religious, but that's not the reason, quite frankly, right? Like, I mean, I don't think getting super blackout drunk is a great idea. I think that, but I have no moral or ethical problems with it. I just hate alcohol, and I'm like, why would I start doing something that I hate, that's bad for you, that helps you make bad decisions? So I've never drank. I mean, I've had a drink before, but I don't drink, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't drink now, but that mine came from a learning lesson. Lesson of getting into the scene and working at the bar, and then it was like a snowball effect. But so it's good. It's cool to see that like you just don't drink. Like you just
nope
don't drink. Because I started not drinking once I heard Sam Ovens say you're losing $100 per hour every time you drink alcohol, and I'm like, fuck. Like,
okay, well, it's interesting. So I was in his mastermind, and we went out to after the mastermind was over. Everybody went out to the bar, and Sam Ovens came with us. And I don't know, there's probably 30 of us there or whatever. And everybody's getting drinks or whatever. And everybody there was drinking except for me and Sam Ovens. We're the only two that weren't. And so we were sitting next to each other, and we chatted for probably, I don't know, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And like, I got to talk to him about his views on God and philosophy and all this stuff. Everybody else was drinking, and he and I are just sitting there sober in this bar with everybody else chatting away.
What was it like being around him? I'm curious because he seems he's like the god in the coaching,
he's the mystery man, right?
In the consulting space, like he's like a monk. He's just like he does the shit that most people wouldn't do. And before, I used to think entrepreneurship was like get the nice car, get the nice house, get this, and then here you got Sam Ovens coming along talking about like get rid of all that stuff, and I'm like, the fuck, like this is
like entrepreneurship's weird because like. It's like one of those things. It's funny because like the more I talk about, like I live in a nice house, I drive a Tesla, right? Like it's funny when I show those things off, people suddenly get more interested, right? They're like, oh, I want that. And I'm like, that's not entrepreneurship. Like entrepreneurship is a bunch of like in the trenches, boring work, solving problems, right? Like all the responsibility fall on you. And don't get me wrong, it's the best life ever, right? And you can make a ton of money with it for sure. But Sam was interesting because he's definitely changed. He's married. He's got a kid now. And he actually had a kid when I was hanging out with him. And I think that Sam is exactly what you would think Sam is like in the business setting. But then there is a personal side to Sam that I have found. And actually I'm an investor in one of his companies, and like I've gotten to know him not super well, but like more we chat every now and then, right? We'll text back and forth, and he's like he likes people, like he does. But it's like he doesn't know how to process most people, right? Because his brain is. I mean, I always say with Sam, it's so funny. You can watch the dude think, right? You ask him a question, you can just like watch it going on in his brain, right? Like it's just like so wild. So if he doesn't know how to process you or like put, then he doesn't know what data, right? Because it's all a computer up there. But once he gets comfortable with you, I mean, he's actually kind of funny. I mean, like he cracks some good jokes, and loves his wife, his kid, and he's a good dude. I like him a lot. I've learned a ton from that guy for sure.
No, yeah, I think I took the consulting accelerator, and I think I was on WeTube as well too. But that's another topic for another day. So Josh Forti, I know you. It's crazy because before this podcast interview, I'm literally going for a walk and listening to the Golden Mike Method. I'm listening to that, trying to embed it and figure out how to make my podcast better and my customer process better and just unique angle better. There's so much to do. I'm curious to where you started. Like, where did you start to how did you even end up here?
Yeah, like, do you want me to go all the way back to like how I started in entrepreneurship, or how I started?
I would say like the beginning, like how you started, and then like just how you got here.
Yeah, for sure.
It's interesting because sometimes where you start is not where you end up.
Not even close. Yeah, for sure. Dude. So I grew up. Where are you located?
Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. Okay, so I grew up on a little farm in Indiana. Well, I was born in Wisconsin, lived in LA for a while, but when I was 11, my parents moved out to Indiana, and I grew up most of my teens and early 20s in a little farm in Indiana. And dude, I just like we never had lack, but like we didn't have money, right? Like it's not like we were like, oh my gosh, like about to government gonna come take our house or something, right? But like it was
Yep.
just like every decision that we made was based off of, oh, do we have the money for it, type of deal. And I just remember I felt very stuck, and kind of trapped, and that someone could always be my boss, or someone was, like if someone could tell me what to do, and I hated it, right? And so, I mean, ever since I was young, 9 years old, I'm learning how to make chocolate chip cookies, and then going up and I'm like, I had a lemonade stand, and then I was like, what else could I sell? So I had lemonade, and then I made chocolate chip cookies, right? And then it was like the next summer, it was like I learned how to bake bread, and I would go door to door and like take orders and like all that, right? So I'm like just natural born entrepreneur for sure. But I, after graduating high school, had a couple failed businesses. We lived on a farm, and I eventually was like, okay, if I'm gonna go and do this, like if I'm gonna be my own boss, if I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, like I've got to actually find something that works, right? Like I've got to, really dedicate my life to it. I was committed. Like I did not like what my life at the time. I wasn't like suicidal or depressed or anything, but like I just like I need to make a change. And so I waited tables at Olive Garden.
I worked there.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, that's where I got started, right? Like waiting tables at Olive Garden. Interned at a radio station and worked night shift at a hardware distribution company. Just to like pay the bills, right? And then I would spend all of my free time online trying to like learn stuff. I mean, I literally remember typing into Google like how to make money online, right? You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff. Yep. And so eventually that led me to finding Instagram, and kind of a right place, right time scenario. I mean, I was definitely working at it for a while before I found it, but once I found Instagram, that's where things started to kind of take off. And within a couple of months or so, I started figuring out how to grow lots of followers. And I'll remember the first dollar I ever made online, like real money online type of deal, was somebody paid $20 for a shout out. They paid me $20 to post a picture on Instagram for them. And I remember sitting there being like, what? Like this is magic. Like this is, I mean, like literally there was $20 that wasn't in my account before, and now it is. And all I had to do was post a picture, right? It was like, that is like that moment of like, what the heck? So I went all in on that, right? I mean, I doubled down big time. Within a couple months, was able to replace my income, which wasn't much. I'm like, we're talking like $2,000 a month, right? I mean, like, but it was enough for me to quit and go full time into entrepreneurship. And so hit it big in the Instagram space. And we grew and managed over 7 million followers on that. And I mean, blew up, like I said, kind of right place, right time, in the sense that we caught that Instagram trend. But that was my first real success, if you will, where I was like, oh, okay. Wasn't making a whole lot, but had a lot of fame, right? A lot of vanity metrics, but enough to pay the bills. And I think a big learning lesson from there for someone like you or anyone else that, would be listening, trying to figure it out. Cause like I'm not smart. I'm very dumb, right? Like I was a D and C student, right? See, I homeschooled. I don't have any special talents. I'm not overwhelmingly skilled. I don't come from money. I don't have connections, right? Like that's not me, right? Like I came from the nobody farm kid, right?
Yep.
The two things I will say is, number one, I work ridiculously hard, right? And number two is I hire smart people, right? I hire coaches. And I remember a coach of mine saying, like, if you want to rig the game so you can win, essentially, right? Make it a lot easier for you to go make money, particularly when you're starting out, you got to catch a trend. And for us, it was Instagram, right? And so that was my start into entrepreneurship. Yeah.
When you quit your job, did you have like a big savings, or you're just like,
no.
You just quit?
I was, yeah, dude. When you're all in, you're all in. I was all in. I think I probably had maybe 2 months of expenses saved up, like maybe. So like.
And were you dating were you and your girlfriend dating at the time, or were y'all married?
No. I was single. Okay. Yeah, no, girls, like, dude, I like here during this time when I'm trying to like figure this out, like I'm like, I shut down, or I didn't shut down. I stopped living in my apartment and moved in with my buddy who lived at like a party house, right? Like literally for college. And like, I'm talking like 4 or 5 nights a week. They'd throw ragers. I'm talking like beer, alcohol, party, music, cops showing up like 4 or 5 times a week, dude. Like, and I would lock myself in a bedroom upstairs, like bolt the door shut, and I would just work. And then when everybody would leave at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I would go downstairs because I didn't have a bed, right? And I would sleep on a couch. I'd clean off the couch. I'd go to sleep, and I'd go up next morning, whatever. And I did that for probably 8 or 9 months to save the $600 a month in rent, so that I could put it towards like the business, right? And I could like go start figuring things out. So no, I didn't party, no drugs, no alcohol, no girls, nothing. I mean, nothing. It was 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, just trying to figure out the business. Yeah.
So you said you stayed at your buddy's house.
I had an apartment for a while, but then yeah, those last 8 months,
Yeah.
I moved. Yeah.
He partied, and you were completely doing the opposite. How did you manage to actually have like laser focus in like a chaos environment?
You know, a lot, dude. I've been asked that quite a bit. To me, like, I didn't like my life. Like, I was broke, right? And I think like so many people, they don't believe it's possible to change their life. They just think that, oh, whatever it is, like, well, I'll, this is just how it is, or like I'll just give it enough time and I'll eventually get an education or like whatever. I was like, no, like I wanted to be free and I wasn't free, right? Like I wanted freedom more than anything else. I wanted no boss. I wanted nobody to tell me what to do. And I thought that, if I got rich and had, fame, like
Yep.
that would make me free. Now I was wrong, but like, that's what I thought. So like, people are like, how did you stay focused? I'm like, in my head, there was no other option. I had one singular goal, right? Like it was go figure out how to go get rich being an entrepreneur. That was it. Like that was my only objective. And so like, I didn't even, like there was no desire to go and party. There was no desire because I'm like, I don't have money to do that. And I look around at my buddies and they're like, oh, I've got $12 in my bank account. And I'm like, so why are you partying? Like, right? Like, what are you doing? And so, laser focus, dude. I mean, like there was no plan B. There was no option.
So I'm trying to figure out your mindset to that moment. You know what I mean? Like what led to that moment to where you're like, I'm broke. I need to lock in. What was that? Like, what made you develop that mindset to where you're like, I don't need to be partying. Like some people who are like you're around are partying.
Yeah.
How did you get the mindset to where you're like, I need to lock in. I can't be doing this partying stuff. Like,
Yeah, I'm sure my upbringing had a lot to do with it as far as like, I mean, my parents, I mean, we grew up on a farm. I had 7 siblings, right? I was the second oldest. I'm the oldest. My older brother passed away now, but like, 8 of us on a farm, and like, you're up at 5 a.m. and you're to bed at, 10 o'clock at night, and you're working. You're up and you're either doing school or you're working, right? Like that's it, right? So it's just work, work, work. There was no time for pleasure or parties or, right? Like you go to church on Sunday and you can kind of hang out Sunday afternoon, but 6 days a week it was work, right? And so, I watched my parents struggle with money. Once again, it's not like we were about to lose the house or but like, just my dad worked a lot trying to make ends meet and all that. And so work was just a part of my life. Right. But dude, I just say like deep, 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 deep down inside, like me, like at a core level, like I wanted to be free and I wasn't free. Right. And so like, to me, I mean, I had insecurity issues. I didn't feel like I was enough. I'm sure a lot of people, struggle with those, but like I battled with a lot of those things. And so like, I wasn't the cool kid. People didn't like pick me to come hang out, be like, oh, we want Josh on our team first. Right? I wasn't, you know what I mean? I was homeschooled. I didn't have friends, right? Like, I didn't go to public school. And so like, to me, I'm like, why would somebody want to be friends with me? Right? Like, why would someone want to hang out with me? I'm like, I wouldn't want to hang out with me. I don't even like my life. And so I'm like, well, if I had money and I had fame, then people would want to hang out with me. If I had money, if I had fame, then I would feel free. Then I could have a boss. Then no one could tell me what to do. Right. And like I just remember every single time I'd get in the car, I'm like, I hope I don't get pulled over. Like not even that I was doing anything wrong. Cause I'm like, I don't have the money for a speeding ticket. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, that sucks. That sucks. And, I listened to Alex Hormozy talk about this, too. He's like, some people look at pain and it like, they're scared of it or they think it's bad or whatever. He's like, I just used immense pain to drive me. And I'm like, yeah, 100%. Right. So no one had to convince me, right? No one had to convince me to work hard. No one had to convince me to lock in. Like I just knew what I wanted. And I didn't have a clear goal of what that looked like, but I knew this. I did not want to be broke. That was it. And there was nothing that broke could offer me. No parties, girls, drugs, alcohol, whatever, nothing that it could offer me that was more valuable in my mind than not being broke.
Yeah, that's powerful. No, that's very, it's interesting and powerful at the same time. Yeah. So you after the Instagram, what happened after that? Like after you did the Instagram and you started seeing success with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot happened between then and now, but immediately after that, my business partner and I, so he was also a broke kid too, that we started together, but we grew up the company and we ended up parting ways, kind of splitting just because no, I got nothing against the guy. We just had different visions of where we wanted to go. Right. And so that's when I got into social media marketing more broadly as a whole. I really had a lot of success with Facebook groups. And for the next several years or so, it was my offers and what I sold was mostly some form of social media growth or marketing. And the issue that I kept running into was I was very good at that, but I did not know how to turn that into dollars effectively. Right. So the people that were buying it, it was a struggle unless they knew what to do with it. And those types of people, they would realize that I didn't know what I was doing with it. So I would still charge as a commodity, right? I wasn't charging high ticket stuff because I didn't understand money. I didn't know how to get paid at the time, right? Even though I thought I did, I was like, I'm going to go have success and all this stuff. And so it was a couple of years of like really just trying to figure that out. So it was a lot of agency work, and like we had success. I mean, the business at one point, I think we were doing $70 or $80,000 a month in revenue, right before my brother passed away when I kind of shut it all down. But during that time, it was like I said, running from my past in the sense of like, I wasn't like trying to be better in the sense of like, oh, I'm so good. I'm like, I just hated being broke. And I was running from all that. And so like money, fame was still the goal. And I'm trying super hard. I'm working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, like a legit 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Right. Like I'm like going to bed on my phone and then like waking up in the middle of the night and I'm like doing falling back like all the time. Right. And that was good because it just taught me that if you just continue to work ridiculously hard, you can succeed to some level. But like I was very unhappy and I was very broken inside. Like I didn't know who I was. And I didn't know that though, right? I didn't know what my issues were. And so my brother ended up passing away in a helicopter crash, my older brother. And like that was kind of that moment for me that kind of everything stopped, right? It was like, wait a second. None of this, does any of this even matter, right? Like at this point, I had a lot of follow. I mean, we had a network of 100 million people, dude. Like there was no one we couldn't get in touch with online. I mean, we got Britney Spears' boyfriend verified. I mean, like we're talking like anybody we wanted to, right? Like that was that. But like, I was like, who cares, right? Now my brother's dead. I don't understand life. And so, at that point, I shut down the business, or I didn't shut it down. Actually, I left the business and I got a buyout check from my partner. And my wife and I, we just bought a one-way ticket around the world. And around that time is when I started Think Different Theory, my first podcast. And the purpose of that was I realized that I was trying so ridiculously hard and I wasn't getting where I wanted to be. But, you know, masterminds were $25,000 or $50,000 and I couldn't afford that. And so I was like, well, I can't hang out with smart people because I can't afford to be in the room. So like, how do I get smart people to listen to me? Or like, how can I talk to them? And so my whole premise was kind of like what you're doing here was I started that with the intention of, I'm going to ask life's biggest questions. I'm going to document the journey. I'm going to interview some people that are way smarter than I am. Right. And I'm going to learn from them that way because they'll say yes to a podcast. Right. And so, yeah, that's where, you know, that kind of led to next. And we went overseas for a while and I was doing podcasts all through that. But we went overseas. My wife got very, very sick. Very sick. And when we were over in the Philippines, and so we ended up having to cut that trip home. It was like, we lost like 40 grand in like a week, right? Because we lost all of our prepayments. It was, you know, emergency flights home, back to the hospital and all that. And so I found myself broke, like eight grand left to my name after having, you know, $70,000 a month in revenue in a business 8 months earlier, right? Living in my, go ahead.
You made it, well, kind of made it. Like you were making some good money and then you were broke again.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Yeah. At one point I had several hundred grand in my account and I lost it all. Right. Yeah, for sure. But I found myself living, when we got back, I spent a week living in my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. Right. We weren't even like, married yet, but like it was her mom's house over Christmas in the basement. And like 8 months earlier, I was like, I had like a $70,000 or $80,000 a month business and, you know, all these followers and blah, blah. But like then my brother died and it was like this 8-month stretch of just insanity, right? Like going from here to here and like just, have you ever been like just really, 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 really confused in life?
I would say, yeah, there's been a couple times I've been really confused.
Yeah, like really confused.
It was for sure like right out of high school time and like, what am I going to do and stuff like that. No, I've been there.
Yeah, right? So like, imagine that, like the most confused, like lost I've ever been because I'm like, I'm seeing all these people that, you know, I became an entrepreneur to be free. And then I met a bunch of rich people and a bunch of successful people and a bunch of famous people, and they were no more free than I was, right? They were just as trapped because money and success and fame does not buy freedom, right? It buys options. That's it. And so I'm super confused. Then my brother dies. My wife is sick, super duper sick, was in the hospital, right? Like I'm in the basement there and I'm like, how did I get here? Right? Like, how did I get to this moment right there? And that was probably the lowest point in my life, right? That was probably the most confused I've ever been, and most frustrated I've ever been, because I'm like, I have worked harder than any single person I've ever met. Like, I outworked every single person in my hometown. I outworked every single person that I knew. Like, I worked harder than literally any single human being that I had ever personally met. And like, that's where I ended up. And like, if there's a lesson there, it's like hard work doesn't equal success. You know?
That's a fear of mine, is like making it and then losing it all. Like just completely losing it all.
Can I tell you how not to do that?
I'm here.
All right.
Yes.
So, like I told you, I'm pretty dumb. I have a ridiculously hard work ethic. And someone asked me the other day, they said, Josh, like, what would you attribute your success to? And I was like, well, two things. One, I work really, really hard, but I did that and that didn't work in and of itself. It's required, but that's not it. And then two, as I hired coaches, I hired smart people and I learned from them. Right. And in that moment, at my lowest point, right, when I didn't even have a place to live, I knew I needed help. I started interviewing coaches, and all these coaches out there, oh, you need a funnel, or you need you need ads, or you need this offer. I'm like, I can assure you that I don't need those things. It's not that I don't need them. It's like, I've built those things. I know how to do those things. Like, that's not what I need. I don't know what I need, but it's not that. Right. And I remember getting on the phone with this lady named Katie Richardson. And she spoke to me in a way that no one else has ever spoken to me, right? And she was like, yeah, tell me what's wrong. And I told her all about the issues. And she goes, okay, Josh, but like, what's really wrong? Right? And like, I opened up to her and I was like, I'm lost. I'm confused. I've worked all this hard. I tried to escape. Here I am. Da, da, da. And she told me, she's like, Josh, I see greatness inside of you. I see you getting in your own way, and I can help you become the person that you want to become. And it's not going to be with a funnel. It's not going to be with, ads. Not going to be with those things. I can help you get there. And I'm like, I'm in. I will buy your coaching, whatever it is. Like, I was prepared to like take out a loan, put, $25,000. Like, I only had $8,000. I was prepared to spend 25. And she goes, I'm $60,000.
Damn.
And I'm like, 6,008, math ain't mathin', right? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I've been there. I've made like this. I've made purchase decisions. Like, I just made a $5,000 purchase decision not too long ago. And even then, like at 5K, it's a hard decision.
Right.
So you're talking about money you don't even have yet.
I'm talking like, I've got talking 60. We're talking like, 50,000 plus more than I've got. Right. And I remember, like, I knew deep down in my soul, like, I was in so much pain. I was so lost. I was so broken. I was like, I don't know. I need help. I need guidance. I had no one to turn to. Right. And like, I'm living in, and I told her I'd call her back. I hung up the phone. I cried for like 15 minutes. And then I called her back and I was like, okay, I can't afford you, but would you take payments? She goes, yeah, I'll do $5,000 a month for a year. And I'm like, cool. I was like, I only have the money to make the first payment. I don't have the money for next month. Let's do this. And so I paid her the $5,000. I put the money down and we got to work. And like, that woman changed my life, dude. I mean, completely changed my life. The first call that we had about, I don't know, it was like a week later or whatever, we had our first call. Or it was the next day. I don't remember when it was. It was shortly after that. And we get on the call and I'm like ready to tell her all my problems. Cause I'm like, I'm back in make money mode now. I'm like, I got to make some money, right? I got these payments. And I get on with her. She's like, all right, tell me what's going on. And so for 45 minutes, I'm telling her about my business and offer and all the problems with money and all blah, blah. And after 45 minutes, she didn't say anything. Like for like 45 minutes, I just vented. At 45 minutes, she goes, you done? And I was like, I think so. And she goes, Josh Forti, who are you? And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything, dude? Like, what do we even talk? Like, did you not hear what I had no idea, no concept of the question that she was asking, right? I was so, like, that was such a foreign concept to me. But like, that one question is the question that changed my entire life. And for the next 4 months, that's the only question that's the only thing that we worked on was that answer that one question. Who are you? We didn't work on business, ads, funnels, nothing, right? We just worked on that one question. And after 4 months or so, 4.5 months into coaching with her, I had my first $100,000 day. And we never even talked about business. Right? It's like,
that's crazy. That is crazy.
Insanity, right? And like, what I learned there, and I think we as entrepreneurs, we as anybody that wants to be successful, is like, we don't know what we don't know. And hard work alone is not the answer, right? Like, you've got to find people that can see things that you can't. right? Like she is the most I've ever actually. I ended up paying her $100,000. I've hired one other coach for $100,000, and lots of coaches for that. Yeah, Dan Henry. I hired him. Yep. But like the reason I continue to hire coaches was because that experience for me was the most transformational experience of my life. And I was like, that happened because I had hired a coach who I didn't even know what I was buying. I didn't even know the offer. I didn't know what I learned. Like I still couldn't tell you to this day. She's like, what was the framework she followed? I have no idea. But I know she coached me in such a way that like made me see the world differently, made me see myself differently, made me think and act and operate differently. And like I had the same offer and the same resources and the same money around me before and after her. She didn't magically hand me money. She didn't teach me these skills that I didn't have before. And one of them led me to being broke in a basement of my, girlfriend's mom's house. And the other one was $100,000 a day 4 months later. And like that happened because of a coach. And so, people tell me, they're like, oh, Josh, how'd you get so successful? Or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, first off, I have a level of success. Yes, I understand, right? That most people don't. I get that. But I don't think I'm that crazy successful. But any success that you do see or any magic that you do think happened is due not because I'm so smart. It's number one, because I've been very, very blessed in the sense of Jesus Christ loves me. I'm a healthy human being, right? Like I don't have to deal with a lot of those battles. I've got a good family. My parents are together. I worked really, really hard. But number two, and just as importantly, if not more importantly, it's I hired people that were way smarter than me and I listened to them, right? Like I hired coaches, and that is the ultimate hack in life. I believe building relationships with powerful people that have what you want and that think how you want to think. That's the ultimate hack.
And you mentioned earlier that money and hard work is, so you said I had a question on this exact thing. You said having money is not gonna make you free.
No.
Why did you say that? I'm actually very curious, because in my opinion, the way I see it is if you have a lot of money, you're more free than you are. Like I would be more free having more money than if I had the money I have now.
100%, dude. And by the way, like that's how I thought. And to be very clear, I am not bashing money. Having money is awesome, right? Like I live in a very nice house. I drive a super awesome car. We fly first class and travel all around. Like we never worry about money on a daily basis. It's awesome. But that didn't bring freedom. It just brought options, right? Because freedom is like starts internally, right? Like I was very, very trapped for so long because I didn't know who I was. I was so, cared so much about whatever other people thought of me. I didn't have I found freedom, me personally, like I found true freedom when I recommitted my life to Christ, right? That's where I found freedom in my life, like from a personal and spiritual level. I found freedom in my marriage when I committed. And so this paradox of freedom is that if you want immense freedom, you must have immense discipline or sacrifice, right? So it's like you cannot have complete and utter freedom unless you have complete and utter sacrifice. It's like, how does that even work? That doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, if you wanted complete freedom with your money, let's say I give you $1 million, right?
Okay.
Do this exercise, okay? You have $1 million. If I said, go be free with that money, and you're like, I'm going to go be free with this money. You just bought whatever you wanted to do. You spend it however you wanted to spend it, whatever, right? You're completely free to do whatever you want. How long will that $1 million last?
Me, I would say several years, because I live lean now. I used to live way worse than I do now. Like I just ride a scooter around. I don't have a car. So I think the $1 million would last me a very, very long time.
Okay, but is this the life you want to live for the rest of your life?
No, I'd probably, what would I do? I would still live lean. No, I really would. Compound lifestyle. I would live a lean compound lifestyle.
Yeah,
so
100%.
I would say, but I'm not going to say that I wouldn't hire any coaches and consultants. So I would say
my point with the $1 million, this though, is like if I just told you could just blow it and do whatever on it, eventually you would run out of the $1 million, right?
Yeah, I would buy properties and stuff like that.
Okay.
Boom.
Okay. So in order for you to preserve that wealth, you would have to be disciplined with that money to go buy things that would constrict your ability to be free with that money. Because if I take that money and I buy an asset with it, I can't go spend it, right? So this idea of freedom, do whatever I want, I'm going to go spend that money. I'm never going to see that money again, right? Mm-hmm. But if I have that $1 million, if I first go and I do things smart with it, if I'm first disciplined with my money, right? If I'm first creating the certainty and first doing that and creating that discipline, then I can go be free and be dumb over here, right? Otherwise, you just lose everything. And that was my problem. I went and made a bunch of money. I didn't know what to do with it. I had no concept or understanding of it, right? I wasn't disciplined. I didn't have a healthy relationship with money. And so all of a sudden I would get money and I'd blow it. I'd get fame, I'd blow it, right? And so this I thought that freedom came with having money. And it was like, no. Money is just a tool. That would be like freedom comes when I have a camera, or freedom comes when I have a book. Or it's like, well, no, like that's not freedom. That's just a tool. It's just a thing, right? And so like I know people that, make way less money than I do and have immense freedom in their life because they know who they are, they've got a good marriage, they know what they're willing to give up and sacrifice, right? And if you want to be free in something, I've found that like you have to figure out what you're willing to sacrifice to go get that freedom. And so I thought freedom or money was going to bring the ultimate freedom. And I'm like, nope, money just amplifies, right? That's it. So if you don't feel free now, like you can hate your life. That's fine. You can go and you'll be driven by pain. I get it. I've been there, right? I will tell you, use that and you should. But like, just know that pain and suffering or internal battles or feeling like you're not enough or whatever the thing is, like that's not going to go away once you get money. Right? Like it's just not.
Yeah. No, I'm following exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So I do want to touch. I did go to church for ever since 3rd grade to all the way till high school, and then after high school, I never stepped foot back into a church again. So I'm kind of curious, what made you stop? Was it just kind of like how everyone does? They just stop just because like your life goes on. You know what I mean? You just stop going. But what actually brought you back to it?
Yeah, that is a very deep question. I mean, that's one of my favorite topics. So feel free to push and ask as many questions as you want on it. I grew up in church. Sorry, do you have a question?
Oh, I was just gonna say it's not really the norm. You know what I mean? It's like
right. No, it's not.
You get older, it's not the norm thing to do.
Yeah, no. I grew up in the church, right? I grew up in a very small town. I grew up in a very small church, and it was, I mean, legalistic by anyone's standards, right? I mean, for sure, there was a lot of rules and different things or whatnot, and I didn't hate it, but like, I also just didn't get it because I'm like, everyone here is broke and poor, and they all pray to God that it would help, that they would help their situation, and I'm like, well, you're all poor, like go and work. If you just made money, you wouldn't have these problems, right? I'm like, we pray to God to bring my dad home, and I'm like, but if we just had money, he would be able to come home, right? Like, so I didn't like, I believed in God, but I'm like, I battled with the church because I didn't understand it. It felt like a bunch of rules. And then once I turned 18, I started going to a different church to see that. And then I got, was not accepted there either. I was told, someone told me at church one time I was going to go to hell since I had a tattoo, right? Like what?
Yeah.
It was like crazy. And so I was just like, all right, God, here's the deal. I'm going to go get rich and then I'm going to come back and we'll have a conversation. But like, I'm going to go take care of this stuff first, because I had this view of Jesus that was like, Jesus loves the little children and he hangs out and he's, oh yeah, he saved us, but like also whatever. Right. And so I left the church just because I was like, I'm committed to my business. I'm committed to getting, I'm going to get this bread, right? Like that's what I'm doing, right? I'm after this. And like, listen, like I have no problem with trying to go make money with it, right? But that was my focus. And so after there was several years there where I did not go to church. I didn't reject God, but I certainly didn't like make him a part of my life. And then after my brother died, that got my attention. Now, what's interesting is that, how many people do you know out of everyone that, would you say that there's a lot of people that that say that they believe in God? Maybe they don't go to church, maybe they're not religious, but they believe in God.
I'll say majority.
Yeah, majority believe in God, right?
Majority.
A lot of people say they believe in God, right? Guess what? Muslims say they believe in God. Christians say they believe in God. Pretty much everybody would say that they believe in God in some capacity, unless you're an atheist, right? A majority of people would, particularly in America, right? So at that point, when my brother died, I got mad at God, and not even mad, I was just confused. And I was just like, God, like, why? But I realized that like that after a while, like, yes, I acknowledged God was there, but like he felt very distant, right? And it was like, he's this all powerful being, cool, I guess, whatever. And so I felt this deep, like I had to shut down the podcast due to the trademark infringement with Apple, right? And like that lawsuit or that legal battle, right? Like all the things. And just like, it felt like there was something missing in my life. I got married and like, there was this calling, there was clearly something didn't quite sit right. And what I ended up happening is I found Jesus we started going to church again, like kind of just trying some different churches and some things. I started reading, in the Bible a little bit more. And like, I didn't find freedom when I came back to God. If anything, I probably became more confused. I found freedom when I found Jesus. And most Christians, most people in general will say, oh, I believe in God, right?
Yeah.
But I don't serve God. I serve Jesus Christ. And he is God 3 in 1, right? So he's part of God, yes. But like, that's who we're supposed to worship. That's who we're supposed to follow. That's who, like in the Bible, that's who it talks about. The story is about him, right? And so I remember I was just listening to some hymns one time, or not hymns, some worship music or whatever on the TV. I threw on a YouTube clip. It was like a 3-hour long thing. And this guy, pastor, comes out about 45 minutes in. I had no idea there was going to be a sermon, right? He comes out like 45 minutes in, all the worship stops, and he gets up there and he does this sermon. And he gets up there and he goes, I'm going to tell you all about Jesus tonight. And I'm like, all right, dude. I know about Jesus, right? Like I went to church. I know the stories, right? He fed the I get it, right? Like what? Okay, what are you going to tell me? And he goes, and some of you are going to like give your life to Christ tonight. And he's talking to a bunch of pastors. Like that was his audience. And he's like, some of you are going to commit your life to Christ tonight, recommit your life to Christ tonight. I'm like, okay, you got my attention. I'll listen. And he preached this sermon. It was about 45 or 48 minutes or something like that about Jesus. And he explained Jesus using scripture in a way that I had never heard anyone explain it before, right? Like he talked about how like Jesus is the king of all the universe. He's the most powerful entity and being ever, right? He reigns over everything. And this insanely powerful over all person who does not need us, came down as a man, as a human, right? To have this experience. He was fully God and fully man. He knew what it was like to be tired. He knew what it was like to cry. He knew what it was like to hurt, to have pain, to lose loved ones. Like he experienced all of that. And then he went to the cross, and these people literally ripped his beard off of him. They beat him, and they literally spit in the face of God, right? And he, like, that is how low he went. He experienced the most horrible form of abuse and torture and you know, people spitting in his face, dying like death on a cross. And he did that because he did that to take on all of the sins of the world. So he went and he took all of sin and all of death and all of darkness, all of it from all of eternity at all of the same time. And he single-handedly took them all on at the same time, and he won. Hallelujah, right? Like he won. And like he rose again on the third day. He came back to life, and he is the king that reigns over all. He already beat all of the opposition at the same time, and he's back up in heaven in glory, and that guy loves you. And that guy wants a relationship with you. And I'm like sitting there listening to this, and I'm like, damn. Right? I'm like, oh my gosh, like why would I put my trust, like why would you put your trust in money? Why would you put your trust in fame? Why would you put your trust in any, like that guy? You can trust him. You can have a relationship with him. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, like I've never heard anyone explain it like this. And at the end, he's like, you know, if you want to recommit your life to Christ, now's your time. And I'm like on the floor, just I'm recommitting my life to him. And in that moment, for the first time, I felt like I had purpose, like actual purpose. I wasn't running anymore. Like I was filled with the Holy Spirit. Like I was filled with something that I'm like, I now have a direction for my life. And I have no idea what that means. It's not like I magically woke up the next day and had everything in my life figured out. I didn't, right? I didn't know I didn't know how to live it out. But for the first time, I was like, oh, that guy, I serve him. He loves me. And like that guy wants what's best for me. I'm going to trust him. And so after that, my wife and I think I probably count on one hand the amount of times we've missed church since then. And if we can't make it, we'll watch it. Our church streams it. I mean, we went to many different churches before we found a good one that we really loved and can get into. But like, we love our church. We're in it. And that fire, that fuel, that desire of like, wait a second, I'm free. Like for the first time ever, all of the pain, all of the feeling like I wasn't enough, all of the people that I was trying to impress, all of those things, like I just gave it all to him. And I was like, cool, this is what you said. You said you love me. You said you created me as I am. Cool. What do you want me to do? And that gave me freedom. And like, I love entrepreneurship. I like making money. I like, you know, having impact and influence and success. I love it all. I also love my wife, and I love my daughter, and I love being in church, and I love having purpose and serving people. And so like my role as an entrepreneur now is I'm not trying to be rich and famous. Now I'm going to be rich and famous by default, but my goal is not being rich and famous. My goal is to simply be the person that God's called me to be. Right. And for me, that's leadership. For me, that's an entrepreneur. For me, that's like, you know, being a powerful person. And so that's how I found Jesus. And that's how I reconnected with that.
And you don't really hear much about this in the entrepreneur space. It's all about money, all about the nice cars and getting to the next level in life. But at some point, you are going to have to face them. You're going to be sitting there face to face with them.
And like, dude, here's the thing, man. Like, you can have nice cars. You can have the Lamborghinis and you can live in the nice houses. Like, dude, I love driving sports cars, man. Like, I do, right? Like, I live in a fairly large house, right? I mean, we've got a guest suite. I've got my daughter has her own bedroom, and then it has a nursery, right? Like, we've got the things. Also, those things are just empty and meaningless, and there's not some other purpose, right? And it's like the life that Christ gave me, the purpose that he gave me was so significantly and radically better than anything that the world or that money or whatever it was could offer. And when I just switched my priorities and said, okay, look, I'm going to give God what he asks for. I'm going to do what he says to do. I tithe. I mean, I made this post. I don't cheat on my wife. I tithe every week. I go to church every week. I host a Bible study at my house, right? Like, I live out what I believe. And yeah, is there discipline required? Yep. Do some people look at me weird? 100%. I mean, people tell me I worship a magic fairy dust in the sky, right? Dan Henry told me that, actually, right?
Yeah,
like,
no, I can
crazy,
see him,
right?
I can see him telling you that. Oh, really
insanity,
good.
right? Like, but I don't care, because like, I know what I believe. I know that there's purpose, and also you can have nice things, and also you can make a lot of money, and also you can, have a lot of influence, right? And also you can, buy your wife or husband, if you're a woman, right? You can buy them a nice car and go on trips and all of that at the same time. It's not an either or. It's, you just have to have your priorities right? You have to know, or at least, for me, it's like you have to know who it is that you actually serve.
So I have to ask, since you are religious, you believe in Christ and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that they would talk about, the church that I grew up in, which was Pentecostal, was the rapture coming and the end of times and things like that. And it was like every month they were like, he's coming this month, or like, not necessarily this month, but get ready,
all the time, dude.
Pack your bags, he's coming. And for me, the hardest thing was to especially as I got older, to want to focus on a goal when I knew that, like, okay, why am I going to focus on a goal if he's coming tomorrow? Right? Like, I need to be prepared for like all civil war to break loose, and it's not getting any better out there. We can see, like, with the wars that are going on,
craziness, right?
Like, that's crazier, and it's probably amplifying everything. Like, do you believe the rapture?
Do I believe that the rapture is going to happen?
Yeah, like the rapture, which is he's going to come and he's going to swoop up all of the Christians, and then there's going to be 7 years of tribulation on earth.
Yeah. That's what maybe Christians who, have their own interpretation of the Bible think is going to happen. I absolutely believe in the rapture. I absolutely believe in the end times. I believe Jesus is coming back. It's going to be the greatest day ever. It says the sky is going to split open and he's going to come down on a horse breathing fire with, a tattoo on his thigh that says King of Kings and Lord of Lords, right? Like, I mean, like, he's coming down with an angel, army of angels to bring heaven back to earth. Absolutely. Do I think it's like, no one knows when it's happened. No one knows when it's going to come. And so, yes, the Bible says always be prepared and always be ready. Absolutely. Right. But like, do I think it's going to happen in my lifetime? No. Could I be wrong? Yep. But guess what? I also know this. There's not going to be any question when it happens. Right? Like, it's not like we're going to go about our daily life. Ooh, right? Like, and the Bible is very clear. I mean, one of the things that it talks about, number one, it talks about the kingdom of heaven the most. Number two, it talks about money. Money is the second most talked about thing that is referred to and mentioned by Jesus, right? Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
The thing that the Bible talks about, I mean, over and over and over and over, is do not fear, fear not, do not fear, fear not, right? And I'll tell you, dude, when I grew up in the church thinking that Jesus was a little shepherd boy that, hung out with little children and was a nice guy, right? That pissed a couple of people off because he was controversial a little bit. Like, I was afraid a lot. I had a lot of fear. And then I'm like, oh wait, he's the king. Like, the king, right? The guy that reigns over everything. The guy, he already defeated all the death. So like, now I have no fear. Like, genuinely, like, I can't remember the last time I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Because I'm like, it's Christ. So I absolutely believe the rapture is going to come. I absolutely believe that it's going to be completely and utterly different than anyone thinks. I don't pretend to know what it's going to look like, but every time I read Revelation, I'm like, this is not what I was taught growing up, right? Like, I'm like, this is like hell's not even a real place yet, right? Like, the lake of fire, it's not even real yet. I mean, it's coming, Like, but like according to Revelation, that's in the end times. Like, what weren't you always told? Like, if you sin and mess up, you're going to hell, right? There's lake of fire. That's not even here yet in the Bible, right? And if you read Revelation, it's like that's coming, but like now it's not even a thing yet. And like, so every time I read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, right? So I do what I've been called to do, which is go be more like Christ every day. And listen, I love building businesses and making money and teaching people how to make money and you know, like closing big deals and all the influence or whatever. But like, you better believe that every day, like every night before bed, like my wife and I are in prayer. We pray over our daughter. We're communicating with each other, right? In the mornings, I'm in prayer. I'm in the Word, right? Like I run a Bible study at my house. I'm taking care of my house. I'm taking care of and keeping my things in order, right? Like, because like, I don't know, Christ could come back tonight for all we know, right? We might go to sleep in the middle of the night. Boof, we woken up. And if I'm not ready, if I haven't taken care of my house, well, then guess what? I'm going to be held accountable for that, right? So who knows, dude? Who knows? But don't worry. When it happens, you'll know.
Dang, that's crazy. I'm interested how you separate business from church, or do you include it together? Like, do you include church and business together as one, or do you kind of like separate it?
Church just meaning like my
yeah,
my faith.
Because sometimes like I think I have the notion like it's like you can't really mix the two. Like I don't like you can't mix church and business. Like you can, but like that's just what people think.
I mean, my question to you would be like, says who?
Yeah.
Right. And I get it. No, it's a great question. I don't say that I have a Christian company, right? I don't only work with Christians, and you know, I'm not like, oh, we're not preaching the Bible at you all the time, and no. But I think that the problem with that, the philosophy of I'm going to keep my religion over here and my business over here, is that like when you believe in Christ and Jesus the way that I do, and the way that, you know, when Christ comes in and changes your life. I mean, I grew up thinking that they were separate, right? You do this and over here and whatever. But like my life fundamentally changed at a core level. Like who I am changed at a core level, right? So the lens that I view the world in is through the lens of Jesus, right? Like I am not Josh Forti, me first. I am first, like part of my identity is I am saved by, I'm a child of God. I'm saved by him, and I'm a servant of Christ, right? So like I cannot separate the two of them, because I personally am in both of them, and who I am is a follower of Christ. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So how I choose to live and act and operate and behave and communicate with people and whatnot, right? Like that's going to come out because in both business and in my personal life, because that's who I am, and I'm a follower of Christ, right? That being said, I don't, like I said, I don't have a Christian company per se, right? And I don't have Christian biblical programs, but I'm very open about my faith. And so, you know, on this podcast, on my podcast, you know, when I'm doing trainings and stuff, like I reference the Bible all the time and my faith and my story and all that. And I never once require anyone to agree or disagree with me. I'm just telling you who I am. And if you resonate with it, great. If not, no problem. So I'm very vocal about it. But you know, a lot of people in my program are Christians. A lot of them aren't, right? I live out who Christ has called me to be. And I think that it would be very difficult for someone that has actually been sold out for Christ. I think it would be very difficult for you to not mention him in business in some capacity. But I definitely don't think your business needs to be a Christian business, if you will.
Do you believe if you don't include him, that you are setting yourself up for failure? And you know, it could be any religion, or like Muslim. Like if you just choose not to bring.
Yeah, I can't speak for everybody. I can speak for me, and I would say that I think I would. Perhaps somebody else could, but I think that there's a verse in the Bible that says you cannot serve both God and money, right? And so the example, an analogy that actually it's kind of a powerful visual, right? Now some people use it in a very cheesy way, but imagine you had, you know what a step ladder is, right? Like you go up the ladder. Imagine you had two ladders that, you know, they were lined up back to back, so that when you started going up the steps, they became farther and farther and farther apart, right? Like if that's your business and this is Jesus, right? And they are two separate things. The more you go up, the more success that you have, the further along you get in life, eventually you're going to grow apart, right? And you're going to have to pick one.
Damn.
Are you going to pick God and give up the entire business, or are you going to pick the business and give up God? Because you can't have both, right? You can't serve both. But if from a foundational level, you just align them and you say, no, I serve Christ first. He's one, or like, whatever more important is. And then you figure out how to line up your business or career in whatever capacity underneath that. Then I think that the more you push forward one pushes forward the other, and vice versa. And then you don't have to pick, right? Because like, it doesn't have to be a Christian business, but it better be aligned with, principles.
I need to come back down the ladder, get realigned. Because
dude, tell me about it. Most of my life, dude.
I done split.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Dude, and I'll tell you, do it now, man. Because let me tell you, it hurts way more when you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars and then you lose it all, right? Dude, when I recommitted my life to Christ, I had $1 million a year business. So every quarter we would do a launch, and that launch would be about 250. We'd bring in about $250,000. Okay, so 4 quarters, $250,000 for each one, $1 million a year. $0 on ads. So our profit margins were insane. And that business was the business I was running when I watched that sermon and recommitted my life to Christ. And when I committed my life to Christ, I gave it all to him. And he was like, I need it all. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And he's like, the business too. And I had a deep sense of feeling. I shut it down, dude. I had to shut it down because it was like, it was not allowing me to be the person that I've been called to be. We had just done a big launch. We brought in about a quarter. I think that one was like either 240 or 280, right? That we had brought in. We ended up processing tons of refunds. We, shut the thing down. I shut it all down. And within 90 days, the business had been completely shut down. And I went from $1 million a year business to zero.
The values of the business weren't aligned with the values of God, or Jesus is what you're saying?
The structure of the business did not allow me to live out the person I knew that I needed to be. Yeah.
That's tough.
I have a family now. I didn't have a daughter at the time, but I was married at the time, right? And I'm like, the business that I was building was taking me away from my wife. I was gone constantly, right? I'm traveling all over. She's doing her thing. Like, it was kind of chaos. It was all about Josh Forti, right? It was all me, right? Like, I was the face of it, how great I am or whatever. And like, I played out that scenario in my head and I went, let me fast forward this 3 years from now, right? Let's say it blows up. Let's say it does really well. And in 3 years from now, I hit $10 million, right? I remember sitting there, I'm sitting there in it was my apartment at the time, and I'm playing out the scenario. And I went, if I got to that level, I'd be speaking on stages every weekend. I would be everywhere. And my message of this, and I'm like, my entire life has been not with Christ. Every part of my brand has been built not with Christ. And I'm trying to amplify and blow that up. And I'm trying to make me known everywhere. And like, where's my wife fit into this? Where does my future family fit into this? Where does church fit into this? Where does any of these things fit into this? Right. And I shut it down. It was one of the hardest decisions of my life. Right. But ironically, then at the same time, like, after it was done, I had more peace than I'd ever had. It was crazy. Because like, I flew to my buddy Brad's house. Brad's very, very wealthy, very successful. And I flew to his house. He got like a 12,000 square foot house, dude. He's got like this tunnel underneath the ground to his guest house that you walk through, and like a trampoline in the basement. Like, it's crazy, right? I remember flying out there and I told him what I did. And he's like, yeah, that's probably the right move. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, how do you feel? I don't know. I feel free. I feel at peace. He's like, yeah, it was the right move. Right? It's like, yeah.
At least you weren't fear. You know what I mean? At least fear wasn't there.
Jesus, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm fearful when I'm by myself.
You make entrepreneurship look easy, but there's a lot that you had to go through.
Oh, gosh. No, entrepreneurship is not easy.
You actually look into your story, like, you went through a lot, and I probably haven't even broke the surface of.
I probably haven't broke the surface either, bro. We all got our own story. How old are you?
24.
Bro.
34, sorry. I don't
34.
look at 34, yeah.
You're 34. You got a podcast. You're getting in the internet marketing thing, right? What are you doing in the internet marketing space?
So I'm learning from Jeremy Haynes. I'm working.
Nice. I know him, yeah.
Yeah. My goal is to get into the game of advertising in the long term, but currently I'm working a job, so I'm working kind of like on the transition. The goal of the podcast is to start getting myself into the game. before then I was doing YouTube, and I was doing a lot of stuff that wasn't, like you said, was like, you did some stuff that wasn't aligning with your values. I was doing some stuff that wasn't aligning with my values, and I was becoming a person that I didn't expect I was going to become. Like I was streaking football fields. I was
craziness, right?
Pranking the biggest YouTubers. And as I was doing that, I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm doing all this for fame. So when you were talking about the podcast, when you first mentioned it, I was like, I'm gonna start this podcast, and my goal is to get hundreds of thousands of views on these podcasts. Like, and I still have to break the mindset to where like I need thousands of views per podcast. Like, cause I feel like that's what everyone wants, is they want like tons and tons of views. So that's something I'm learning from your golden mic method, where you're like, it's not about the views. Did you go through the
challenge?
Huh?
Did you go through the challenge?
So I did go through the challenge. Yes.
Nice.
I did go through the challenge. I did all 4 days. I'm going back through it again, just kind of relearning it and things like that. But
what was your big takeaway from that?
The biggest takeaway? One, there's the views. You're not going in this for the views. That's the big takeaway. One of the biggest takeaways I come from being a YouTuber and all about like publicity stunts and getting views and stuff like that. It's not about the views. It's about building the relationship with who you're talking to.
Yeah.
The other takeaway that I got from it was, I guess the unique way of selling, because it's like the way when you said like you really want to wake up out of bed and be like, I got to make 100, 200 sales calls, or do I want to wake up out of bed and do a podcast? And that actually hit me today. So yesterday at my job, I kind of got into it with one of the owners. You know how bar scenes are. My values already don't align with the bar's values. It's not going to get too deep into it, but we got into it, and he kind of made me feel like he was going to just get rid of me. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to replace you. And I work with owners that don't really look at your value. They don't see you, the good work you do. They don't appreciate you. But the moment you do like one little mess up, which was like someone submitted an application, and instead of putting like a G, I put a C. And he got mad about the applications, and he said like, if this happens again, I'm going to replace you or whatever. But that comes from like just so much stuff going on, because like there's I'm the manager now, so I'm dealing with fights. I'm dealing with people coming in and trying to destroy the bar, stealing tip jars, and like I'm the guy. So a lot of rage was built up. Not rage, but just like
I get it. I get it, bro.
Frustration. So yesterday that happened. I was like, man, like I can't believe that this person like said this to me, because like I've done so much and I've been through so much, and it's like you're not acknowledging the things that I'm actually doing. You're only just acknowledging like one minor error. And it's political. So the recent thing that I had to deal with was a very political thing. It was like one of the owners coming in, causing chaos in the bar, and then I had to like figure out a way to say this to where like I also save myself from not getting fired, because I'm dealing with like ownership now. And I think that had a lot to do with like the recent incidents and him coming and saying something to me. But over the moral of all that whole story was, what I learned was like, this is a better method, because when you roll out of bed and after something like that happens, you're not like, now I got to make thousands and thousands of sales calls today. And you get to be on a podcast with Josh Forti.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Come on. Like, what's better than that? So.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'll tell you that one perspective, and like, listen, I mean, I hope your podcast gets lots of views. I hope my podcast gets lots of views. Not what you optimize for, right? It's not what you optimize for, because like you're doing it right in the sense of, you said you're learning from Jeremy, right? And Jeremy so Haynes. You're learning a skill. And like, I'll tell you, everyone asks, what's the best investment, right? And I love Bitcoin. I own a bunch of Bitcoin, right? So it's like, is Bitcoin the best thing, or like whatever? And it's like, listen, if you want to build wealth, you can go invest in stuff, or you can just make more money, right? And like, I'll tell you, all you need to make more money is you need a skill that actually solves the problem that people are willing to pay for, right? High value skill. And like, dude, you get in the advertising game, you learn how to bring leads and customers to people, and then you interview high level people, right? You interview people like me, business owners or whatever. You build those relationships. Those people all become your clients, right? And they don't pay $12 an hour, right? they pay a lot more, right? Yeah. And because you got a skill. But the average person, dude, doesn't have a skill. They don't have a skill that's worth anything. They don't know how to sell the skill. They don't know how to deliver on the skill. And so the fact that you have a podcast already and you're building up the momentum, you're doing it like this, you're learning a skill, right? My advice to you, dude, like, become the best at that one skill. If advertising's the route that you're going to go, like, dude, you become the best at one skill. I do not know a single business owner, not one single one that I can think of, that unless they already have someone in-house, like, doing it, that doesn't need leads. Every one of them, right? Like, you get good at that, dude, you'll never run out of work. And you can charge a lot of money for it, because that's what is the lifeline of the business, right? So, like, you're doing it right. Stick with it. Obviously, don't get fired from the bar, but you know what I mean? Like, that's powerful. And I'm glad you were able to go through that, and I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah, no, it was very helpful, and I'm gonna keep going through it. I'm gonna keep learning. I'm gonna keep pushing shows, because, like I said, everyone faces day-to-day struggles, and it could just be one.
Are you on YouTube?
I am on YouTube.
All right, let me look it up. What's it called?
My podcast? It's just my name. It's Marcos the G. Marcos.
Marcos the G.
The G.
Marcos the G. Boom.
You find it?
7.99 thousand subscribers.
No, it should be that much. It should be.
Nope. All right.
At Marcos.
That's Marcos G. Hold on. Yeah. Marcos the G.
The G. Yeah.
Marco MarcosTheg, right?
Yes. MAR. Yeah, with the @ sign.
Oh. Yeah. There you go. Marcos G podcast. Why can't I find you?
MarcosTheg.
Marcos. What's the name of one of your podcasts?
The last one I did, I interviewed what's his name?
All right, I'll have to subscribe there. You'll have to send me a link to it. Because I'm looking it up. What'd you say? Oh, you have the @ is that the username? Is Marcos the G with the username?
That's the username, yeah.
I got you. All right, I subscribe to you. Let's go. Nice. I got my business roasted by Dan Henry. Let's go.
Yeah, I did get my business roasted by Dan Henry. He went all in.
That's awesome, dude. Do you have him on the podcast yet?
No, but I will eventually one day. My goal is to have him on the podcast.
All right. When you want that, when you're ready to have a lot of momentum and want it, you'll have to hit me up, and I know Dan pretty well. I'll tell you how to get his attention.
Well, I think I got his attention on the podcast. He really was.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that's right. You got most by, so he knows who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, he knows who I am. But it'll be cool to be like, hey, like, this guy.
Yeah.
Because when I jumped on his show, I was still in that YouTube mindset, and he was like, "The fuck?" I'm like, hell no. He's like,
that sounds like Dan. That sounds exactly like Dan. Yep.
He just straight obliterated me.
What's your next goal with the business? Like, what's the next immediate thing you're working on right now?
So the immediate thing I'm working on right now is just the podcast is getting in front of people. I need to be getting in front of people and learning. Talked with Jeremy Haynes, and he says all you need to be doing right now is getting in front of people and skilling up. Getting in front of people, skilling up.
Do you have an offer?
Me? I don't have an offer right now because I'm still working on trying to figure out exactly what people want, like in the coaching and consulting space, like how I can actually help.
Is that what you're trying to? Are those the people you're trying to serve?
Coaches and consultants?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or personality brands, people that actually have a personality brand and not afraid to be on camera and go to the next level.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense. So, like, if you build relationships with these people, you don't have anything to sell them?
I do. I have the skill that I'm learning to sell them, but I don't know how to position it because I don't know the actual problem that I'm solving.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it cool if I shut off the recording?
Yeah, you want to? I mean, we want to wrap up the interview.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, well, we're going off into it. I don't know if you want to have this on the interview, but
I don't care.
Okay,
bro,
cool.
It's your podcast, bro. I can care.
This
is the best type of conversation where we're just chatting back and forth. This is a great interview. So it's up to you.
Yeah, we'll keep it going then. All right. So, yes. Wait, what was the question?
You said you're trying to find the problem you solve.
Yeah, so Jeremy Haynes basically said you're just pitching revenue generating activities. You're just generating them revenue, which means like they have the funnel, they have either the email marketing, and maybe they're just ready to hire that media buyer to start running the advertising for them. So that's where I'm kind of like leaning in. And he said sometimes you're gonna have to work with the lower end coaches and consultants in the beginning and get them a result, and then from there you're gonna work with other people and get them a result, and then the higher you go up, he's like you might get lucky and work with someone who's big, but you can't bank on that.
Yeah. What's your biggest struggle right now?
My biggest struggle is time.
Mm.
Time, because I'm working the bar and also trying to build the business at the same time.
Yeah. Like how much? Like, do you do anything else besides this? Just the
That's
bar
it.
and the business?
That's it. I have a
Nah,
girlfriend.
you got time, bro. You got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm married. I got a kid. I got a freaking daughter, right? She's 4 months old. I'm tell you, I thought you think you don't have time now. Oh my gosh, wait till you get married and have a kid, bro. Holy moly. But I think Jeremy's spot on. So one of the things I learned from Dan, he put it very, very well. And I'll tell you, we all overthink things in business, man. Like I overcomplicated what it took to make money for so long. Like, I think Jeremy's spot on when he said that you are pitching a revenue generating activity, because what Dan said, he's like, Josh, I flew down to his house. I paid him $100,000, right? I flew down there and, sat on, and he goes, what do you sell? I'm like, oh, I got this podcast, blah, 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 blah. He's like, no, stop. Right. And I was like, there you go. Try again. Like, oh, we'll help people build their personal brand influence or whatever. I'm like, it's like, stop. He's like, Josh, I made like $50 million online. Like, would you like to know the only thing that people buy? There's only 3. I'm like, yeah, please tell me. He goes, they want to make more money, they want to have more sex, or they want to look hot. That's it. Right. And I was like, all right, Dan. But his point was health, wealth, relationships. Right. And so, like, we're in the wealth space. You sell, right? You help people make more money. And so at the end of the day, the reality is that if you try to sell a service that somebody cannot directly correlate to money, right? If they cannot see the path to how it's going to make them more money, they will not buy. Particularly not at high ticket prices, particularly not a subscription service, right? Like, an ongoing thing. But if you can just show them, like actually show them the path to how it's going to make them more money and create so much certainty around that, dude, they'll pay you whatever you want as long as you're making them enough money, right? So I think he's spot on with that. Yeah, I think once you figure out that what that offer is, dude, you'll be off to the races. You're already doing the podcast. You're already ahead of 50, 60, 80, probably 80% of people that are trying to do what you do. You're already ahead of them.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's you're probably right. I'm probably definitely overcomplicating it. I'm thinking like, I need to solve the problem. I need this, boom, boom, boom. But I just need to take.
You are solving a problem, right? You're solving a problem that leads to more money, right? Because, like, dude, at the end of the day, if you want to, I will literally tell you exactly what the problem is that coach. I know that industry so stupid well, right? Like, I've been in it for 7 years, right? Like, hang out with Brunson in Inner Circle, like all the top people, like that. Dude, like, if you're in the traffic space, like they want more leads, which leads to more clients. That's what they want. They want more clients, right?
Well, why not do it themselves?
Because they're busy, dude. They don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to run ads. I don't want to learn how to run ads, right? Like, when you start, and listen, this is a very good question, by the way, right? Because, like, when I had no money, I thought money was the most valuable thing. So, like, when I would try to go sell a service to somebody, if I was like, I'm going to charge $5,000 for this or $10,000 for this, deep down in my, like, subconscious mind, I was like, they would be better off keeping the money because there's nothing I could possibly offer them for that's worth $10,000, right? Because $10,000 was infinitely more valuable than my time for me because I was making $10 an hour, right?
Yep.
But, like, once I got into the money space and I started making some money and I started hanging out with rich people, I learned that, like, money is the low end of the totem pole for them. Time is everything because, dude, you know what happens if the government runs out of money?
We're screwed.
No, they literally just print more of it.
Oh, you're right. I did.
Fake. It's made up. It's infinite. Money is it is literally unlimited, right? So they're in their business. They are successful because they have figured out how to do what? Make money. So why would they spend their time to go learn something that they could pay someone else to do? Right? So the reason that they're going to pay you or me or anyone else is because they just have to be more certain that they're going to get the result that you solve them or you solve their problem than whatever the money is worth. And as long as you provide more certainty that can solve their problem, they'll give you any money you want. Right? So, like, most people don't want to run ads. Ads are hard, dude. Ads are hard for most people to figure out. Most people don't understand them, right? That's how you sell it. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no.
Like, just imagine that every time you think, oh, who would pay me for this or whatever, go, number one, because you're in the money space, how will this make them money? If you can't answer that question, bro, if you cannot answer how it will make them money, no one's going to buy. But if you can, right? If you can answer the question, how is this going to make them money? Then you go, cool. Are they going to make more than whatever it is I'm charging them?
Yes.
And if the answer is yes, dude, sell it with like your life depends on it. Like show them beyond a shadow of doubt, and they will give you it, and you'll make more money than you know what to do with. That's it. That's the only dude. I overcomplicated money for so freaking long, dude. Like I struggled for 6.5 years of entrepreneurship to figure out how to make money, and then I'm like, oh, it's literally this. Who's the person I'm selling to? What problem do they have? What's the solution to it? And how are they gonna make money with it? That's it. Like that. And I sell it, and then just pay on. People are like, how do you sell stuff for $25,000? I'm like, I just solve a problem that's worth more than $25 or $25,000 to people that have money, right?
So can I ask you what problem?
Yeah, go.
Yeah. Can I ask you what problem you have? What problem that you're struggling with?
My business right now. Yeah, my problem right now, the big issue that I'm focusing on. So there's four parts. There's 4 parts of business, particularly in the internal or the coaching consulting space. But 4 parts of any business, right? There's number 1 is the offer, so it's what you sell. Number 2 is sales conversion process, how you sell it, right? Is it a sales call? Is it a webinar? Is it a whatever? Number 3 is there's traffic. So that would be the problem that you solve, right? I need leads. And the 4th one is internal systems and operations, right? And so right now, we have a really good offer. Actually, just today, we had a guy, one of our clients, that he just crossed over $1 million in sales that he made from our program. We started with less than 7 months ago, 0 ads, right? So our offer is really solid. Our process, we're getting that, buttoned up. My big issue right now is internal operations. Is I need to hire a chief of staff, like a people person to help manage all of our, because my time is split. And so we have I have an operations problem right now. Yeah, that we're getting fixed. Yep.
Operations meaning like you said managing people, like the people who buy?
No, those are good. I mean, yeah, kind of, but like more of like it's right now it's just me and an assistant. So I need to hire a person because I've gotten to the point where I'm doing things in my business that I shouldn't be doing. Right? I'm putting my time in places, but I'm like, I don't want to give it up because I don't trust anybody else to do them because they're important. Relationships, people, client work, all that. So I need someone to come in and do that so I can free up my time. Because like I'm one of the few people that I know that doesn't I kind of have a traffic issue, but I don't have a traffic issue because I actually have a traffic issue. I have a traffic issue because I should be focused on getting traffic and I'm actually focused on operations right now. But like my superpower is organic, right? Like that's how I've generated millions of followers and hundreds of thousands of leads, right? I'm good at that. Most people aren't, right? So I should be the one going out and focusing on building that part of my business, whereas most business owners shouldn't. I'm in the operations right now, and I got to get out of the operations so I can go focus on driving more traffic. If that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
But no, man, this has been amazing.
Yeah, this was fun, dude. I'm glad we can do it.
I learned
Thanks
a lot.
Thanks for buying the camera, bro. That was fun. It was good.
Huh?
Thanks for buying the camera.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait till it comes in. I'm actually looking forward to it.
It's a good camera. I love it. The only reason I got rid of it is I built a new podcast studio, and the guy who came to like, I don't know anything about cameras, bro. I bought that one because I'm like, Joe Rogan has it. And that's what I've been using for a long time. Use it to film a lot of content. But the guy that came in, he's like, no, you want with this lighting and this background. He's like, you want this camera here. And so we ordered 3 of those cameras, and I'm like, it's just sitting there doing nothing. So I might as well sell it to someone that's going to use it.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like 15 hours or 20 hours went by. I was like, there's no way this camera's still available. Josh Forti has like a large following. I'm sure someone's already got this camera. And I was like,
nah, you got it, bro.
I'm just going to shoot for it. Shoot for the stars.
You got it, bro. Well, dude, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you as well. Looking forward to staying in touch and following you as well and keep learning from you.
Sounds good, man. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.